Something is wrong with modern life, and deep down, you already feel it. You have more access to information, entertainment, and connection than any generation in history. And yet, anxiety is at an all time high. Loneliness is epidemic, and millions of people go to bed at night with a quiet, persistent sense that something is missing. This video is for everyone who has ever felt that emptiness. Whether you have never stepped inside the church, or whether you have been Orthodox your whole life and still hunger for something deeper. I want to talk to you today about a book. It is called Why Orthodox Christianity? And it was written by Arsenius Gospel as the first volume in the Orthodox Roots series. I'm going to walk you through its core ideas because I believe this book addresses the exact wound that modern life has opened in the human soul. And it does so not with vague spirituality, but with ancient precision. You find it in the pinned comment below. The book begins with a question that philosophers have wrestled with for thousands of years. What is the purpose of a human life? For most human history, purpose was not something you went looking for. It was something you were born into. A family, a tradition, a sacred framework that told you who you were and what you were here to do. The modern world dismantled all of that, handed you a mirror and said, figure it out yourself. And we're seeing the consequences of that experiment everywhere. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps, and what he observed in those horrors became one of the most important psychological insights of the 20th century. The people who endured were not necessarily the strongest physically. They were the ones who had a reason to live. His entire school of thought, logotherapy, rests on one simple idea. The deepest human drive is not pleasure, not power, but meaning. The book connects this directly to the Orthodox understanding of existence. Suffering in Orthodoxy is not a problem to be solved. It is a path to be walked. One of the most powerful frameworks in the book is what the author calls the golden cycle of Orthodox faith, drawn from Simon Sinek's model of starting with why. Most people approach religion from the outside in. They see the rituals, the fasting rules, the long services, and they ask, why would anyone do all of this? But the book invites you to start from the center. The why of Orthodox Christianity is theosis, union with God. Not just believing in God, not just following rules about God. Actually becoming, by grace, a partaker of divine life. When you understand that, everything else makes sense. The word theosis might sound abstract, but the book makes it beautifully practical. It draws a connection to positive psychology, the modern science of human flourishing, and shows that what researchers are discovering about meaning, resilience, virtue, and community, the Church Fathers mapped out centuries ago. The Desert Fathers were not just praying in the Egyptian desert. They were doing deep psychological work on the human soul, and they left behind a roadmap. There is a concept in the book called synergia, cooperation between human effort and divine grace. This is where Orthodox Christianity parts ways with both secular self-help and purely passive religion. You are not saved by effort alone, grinding through life on willpower. But you are also not passive, waiting for God to change you while you do nothing. You pray, you fast, you confess, you serve, and God transforms you. This is the most honest and sustainable model of personal growth I have ever encountered. The book has a chapter on Nepsis, watchfulness, and it is one of the most relevant chapters for people living in 2026. Nepsis is the ancient practice of guarding the heart, of maintaining a quiet, alert awareness of what is happening inside you moment by moment. It is not passive mindfulness. It is an active, God-directed attention. In a world designed to fragment your attention across 1,000 screens and notifications, this ancient practice is not just spiritually valuable, it is psychologically necessary. Nepsis, this ancient practice of guarding the heart, is no longer just a spiritual luxury. In 2026, it is a psychological necessity. For those who want to study these frameworks in depth, you can find the first volume of the Orthodox Roots series via the link in the pinned comment. It provides the practical steps for watchfulness that are often missing from modern mindfulness apps. Then the book turns to a question that many people avoid. What do you do with suffering? Not theoretical suffering, but your suffering, the illness, the loss, the failure, the relationship that broke you. Orthodox Christianity does not offer a painkiller. It offers something harder and more honest. A framework in which your pain is not wasted. Every saint in the church calendar understood this. Their lives were not comfortable. They were purposeful. That is a different thing entirely. One of the most moving sections of the book deals with the parish community, and it challenges a very modern temptation. The temptation to be a consumer of religion, to show up on Sunday, receive what you need, and leave. The book argues with warmth and without judgment that this posture leaves you isolated even inside a crowded church. Real belonging comes when you stop asking what the church can give you and start asking what you can bring. Emily Esafany Smith's 4 pillars of meaning, belonging, purpose, storytelling, and transcendence are all alive in a healthy Orthodox parish, but you have to step into them. The book also applies the Japanese concept of ikigai, your reason for being, to the vocation of the Orthodox lay person. You do not have to be a monk to live a holy life. You work, your family, your skills, your daily habits, these are your liturgy after the liturgy. Every Orthodox Christian has a calling that is as specific and as sacred as that of a priest. The book helps you find yours. There is a chapter on fasting that I want to highlight because fasting is the most misunderstood practice in Orthodoxy. People on the outside see it as deprivation. The book reframes it entirely. Fasting is training. It trains the body in delayed gratification. It trains the mind in self-awareness, and it trains the soul in dependence on God rather than on comfort. Modern research on intermittent fasting is arriving slowly and with great scientific apparatus at conclusions the church has known for 2,000 years. The book also spends time on beauty, on icons, on liturgical chanting, on the smell of incense, and it makes a case that this is not decoration. Beauty is a pillar of meaning. When you walk into an Orthodox church and every sense is engaged, sight, sound, smell, touch, something in you opens that no podcast or self-help book can reach. The book connects this to the modern epidemic of digital embodiment, the feeling of being a floating consciousness that has lost contact with its own body and the world around it. Orthodox worship is the antidote. The final chapters of the book turn to professional life and legacy. Using Kemi power framework, presence, ownership, wisdom, equality, responsibility, the author shows how Orthodox ethics translate directly into professional virtue. And then the book asks you to do one of the most sobering and clarifying exercises available to any human being. Write your own life story from the end. Look back from your last day and ask what mattered. Orthodox tradition has a name for this practice, memento mori, the remembrance of death. And it is not morbid. It is profoundly liberating. What makes this book unique is that it does not ask you to choose between your mind and your faith. It holds them together. It takes Viktor Frankl and Simon Sinek and positive psychology and Ikigai and puts them in conversion with Chrysostom and the Desert Fathers and the Philokalia. And what emerges is not a contradiction but a confirmation. The human soul has always needed exactly what Orthodoxy offers. We just forgot. If you are a seeker, someone who has felt the pull of something ancient and true, but has never quite known where to go, this book is your first guide. If you are already Orthodox and have sometimes gone through the motions without understanding the deep logic behind them, this book will set you on fire again. It is called Why Orthodox Christianity. So, Volume 1 of the Orthodox Roots series, written by Arsenius Gospel. You will find the link to get your copy in the pinned comment below. The world will keep offering you distraction, productivity, hacks, and the promise that the next thing we will finally feel the emptiness. The church has been offering something else for 2000 years. Not a program, but a path. Not a technique, but a person. If any part of what you heard today resonated with you, take the next step. Get the book. Come to liturgy. Light a candle. The door has always been opened. God is patient, and He has been waiting for you longer than you know. Christ is risen, and that changes everything. God bless you.